I want to talk about how we make
Yeah, but
the
what
best possible candidate, the one that we get to vote for.
Well, first off, I want to go back to the original Civil War national divorce thing, because anybody will tell you that Donald Trump, even supporters of his, the reason why, if you were to ask a question, hey, do you think Donald Trump is the right president to unite the country? That's the question. Okay, not is he a good president, or his policies good? Is he charismatic? Is he the right president to unite the country? Even his staunchest supporters, who are gonna, like Donald Trump said, he could go shoot somebody on, forgot which avenue.
Fifth Avenue.
Third Avenue. Fifth Avenue. Yeah, Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
These people still, they will still vote for him, but they will still answer, no, he is not the right president to unite this country, because again, the country is so polarized that the people who are his staunch supporters, they just want to get back at the other side. They're hoping that Trump can come in and go after Hillary Clinton and the Biden crime family.
That's where we are now, but originally most of us were just, we need a clean house and make America great again. But now we're like, screw you, we want revenge. That's did that. They did that.
But
that wasn't where it was originally. That's not where it was.
1860 moment, right? That we're in right now.
Okay.
And that's why I say he is not the right candidate. That does not mean he wasn't a bad president. That does not mean he won't be a good president.
Yeah.
That does not mean his policies suck. It means simply,
he's not right for
if
now.
he is the candidate, win or lose, even if he loses, win or lose, we are going to go through a national divorce that will take decades to recover from, if the republic is able to hold itself together.
So do you think whether he wins or loses, we are going to have a national separation?
No.
Because I'm okay with that.
So I'm one of two ways. I'm at that final point of, hey, let's give this one more try. Just like I brought up the example of a marriage. Hey, let's try it one more time. See what we can do. Try to come together. And if it doesn't work, then I'm on your side of, it probably is time for a national divorce.
So which side are you? So if Trump is the nominee and he does get elected,
well, if Trump's the nominee, like I said, win or lose, we are going to go through the national divorce.
Okay, and if
win or lose, if Trump is a nominee,
doesn't matter. We're going to go through a divorce.
It doesn't matter what the result is.
So
if he's a nominee, we will see
if we're going to do the one more try thing where we try to get along, who do you think is the best nominee? Who do you think is the best person to be in office at that point? Because it certainly ain't Biden.
Oh, well, it's going to have to be a Republican. And it's really anybody who's in the Republican field who's not Trump or DeSantis. Because, look, DeSantis could be the right solution. The thing about him is, and look, I live in Florida, he's part of the Uniparty. He's owned. Yeah. He only entered into this race because of all the hundreds of billions of dollars that he was able to raise, the CPAC money. He's owned by the corporations. He is a GOP establishment member. Right. And so
he's a poster child.
He's talking all big right now. Oh, I'm going after Trump. He lost the election fair and square. And, he's saying things that are very divisive, which I expect him to change once he actually gets into office, because he is owned by his corporate donors. He is owned by the CPACs.
Right.
He is a GOP establishment member.
Yes.
And look, that can actually be somewhat uniting, because when you have Mike Pence, who is in bed also with Democrats who support the war in Ukraine, and you have Nikki Haley, who's the same thing. These are all uniparty members. They go back.
Yeah, they have no chance, though. I mean, the only one who really has
a chance.
I'm not
saying they have a chance. I'm not saying they have a chance. What I'm saying is, the question is, who can unite the country? And I think anybody who's not Donald Trump can unite the country on the Republican side.
That makes me
Nobody
sad.
On the Democrat side can unite, because the Republican base is so pissed off that they can throw anyone on there. RFK Jr., I don't think he would
I
unite.
like him. I do. I
But the
like him.
Democrats hate him. The establishment Democrats hate RFK Jr. I've never seen even worse than Trump. The coverage on RFK Jr.
Yeah.
is even worse by the mainstream news media.
And
by
that must
left
be why I like him.
I can't even imagine. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, seriously. And you know why? It's because he's intelligent, he's articulate, he expounds the facts.
He's not part of the uniparty. He's not a part of the.
Right, and I don't agree with what he has to say, but he also doesn't fall lockstep with the uniparty, like you said. And him and Trump, God, what I wouldn't love to see is a debate between him and Trump or him and Vivek.
That's what I want. What we're going to get is the two octogenarians.
Well, so
better,
here's where I think, talking about Vivek. So we're talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. Some people may have never heard of him. Many people still have never heard of this guy. He came out of nowhere. I read his book, Woking.
So did Obama. So let's talk about this guy because he needs exposure.
Well, his nickname is Vivek Obamaswamy.
That's hilarious.
Cute.
And so I've been following Vivek ever since I read his book 2 years ago. I have a friend who grew up with him in Cincinnati, playing in the tennis circuit. Vivek was a champion tennis player, played nationally, got recruited to play tennis. Really smart guy, graduated valedictorian from the best high school in the Cincinnati area, St. Xavier's, where he was valedictorian. Really sharp, smart guy. Really good debater, really good speaker, and he's worth close to $1 billion. The net worth that I've seen printed multiple times is more than $600 million. He's self-funding his campaign. He's not owned by a uniparty. He's not owned by any CPAC. He will take corporate donations if they come, but he is not actively seeking them. He's not taking meetings with.
So very similar to Trump, only
very
not
similar
so
to Trump, except he's
divisive.
half Trump's age. He's more than half. He's 38
Yes.
years old. Trump is 77, I think, right now.
Yeah, wouldn't it be lovely to have somebody in there who's not so old they're going to croak tomorrow?
Yes. So he, look, I made the call when Vivek announced his candidacy in February. I said in March that we're going to see a final two of Vivek versus Trump. And this is when Nikki Haley already threw her hat in. It was clear that DeSantis was throwing, and DeSantis was leading in some of the polls. He was beating Trump in California and Texas and Florida. So DeSantis was in the pool. Nikki Haley already
all
threw
the
her hat
wrong
in.
people because his campaign went kind of sideways. But I mean, I like
It was a huge
DeSantis. Don't
mistake.
get me wrong, but whoever he fired and hired, he did not make good choices.
He ruined his political career, but he ruined his political career because now if he goes up he's lost chances of becoming president within the next 10 to 15 years because of this terrible campaign.
He should have waited. He would have had it. If he would
He
have just
easily
waited,
had it.
he would have
Easily
had it.
Easily, just like he easily got reelected for governor. He would have easily. But anyway, so Vivek, I want to talk about a few things regarding him, because in March I said this is going to come down to Trump versus Vivek.
Oh, I hope so. I like I said, I would crawl through broken glass.
People thought I was crazy.
Vivek.
People thought I was crazy.
No, you're
the
not.
reason they thought I was crazy was because they'd never heard of him. They're like, who the heck is this guy? I'm going to give you a quiz. I think you guys together should be able to do pretty well on this quiz. Are you ready?
Okay.
I'm ready.
2004. Bush was president. Democrats threw out a bunch of people. Who was winning in the polls around this time? Let's say August 2004. Who was winning in the polls on the Democrat side?
I was still in high school.
I believe it was Joe Biden, wasn't it?
No. Joe wasn't running.
He didn't run.
Inconvenient truth guy. Inconvenient truth guy.
Al Gore?
No, he didn't run. He moved up. Inconvenient Truth was being filmed.
Like I said, I was still in high school, so.
Yeah, it was being filmed in 2004, and he became
Okay.
I'll give you a clue.
It wasn't a Bush?
I'll give you a clue. No, Democrat. Because Bush
Democrat.
Bush was president, was the incumbent.
Bush was the president. Who was the incumbent? Who was running? Good.
Well, there were a lot of people running, but do you remember who was leading? Here, I'll just give you. I'll just say it. It was Howard Dean. Howard Dean was
no
being
idea.
Okay, I remember. He was
no
the screaming
idea.
guy, right? Okay.
Exactly. So the screaming guy, when he screamed.
Isn't Howard Dean the guy that was in that
No,
show about
no, not
mummies
today,
or,
not
yeah,
today.
yeah,
Not today.
Howard Dean is the screaming guy, and the screaming
guy,
incident.
what does that mean?
Okay.
He screamed. So he had this really weird scream during a campaign rally. Or no,
Woo!
I think he won. Yeah, I think he won Iowa. I think it was Iowa. And so he gave his like victory speech, and then he had this like scream, which everyone thought was really weird and strange. And then his
I have to look this up now.
Yeah, I remember
Howard
that
Dean.
now. That single moment ended it for
that
him.
single moment ended it.
If you had told us 1 year ago that we were going to come in third in Iowa, we would have given anything for that. And you know something? Not only are we going to New Hampshire, Tom Harkin, we're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. And we're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah!
Oh my God, I've heard that scream. I did not know that was him.
That was him, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So now you
but
know.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's just a normal everyday.
Well, sorry. It was
excited.
enough that everybody else took advantage of it and made fun of it and humiliated him. And
yeah, you had people saying, "Oh, I don't want that guy to be my president anymore."
Yeah, come on. That's like the.
I thought he was going to recite all 50
now.
states. Actually, I thought he was well on his way.
So anyway, look, this all ties into so 2004, Howard Dean, that was a January clip, 2004, but in 2003, in August 2003, Howard Dean was at the top of the polls. In 2008, I'll answer that for you. In 2008, Hillary Clinton was in Trump's place right now. She was at 60 to 70% polling on the Democrat side.
Because she's so unlikable.
And on the Republican side, Rudy Giuliani was the leader on the Republican side.
I remember
Giuliani.
President? I don't remember that.
You don't remember much.
2008, yeah. And they were both happy to run against each other because they were good friends.
Right.
Really?
Both,
yeah.
Very good friends.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy,
because
don't ask them
Giuliani was mayor. They both lived in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And Giuliani was mayor when Hillary was still a first lady, and then she became senator. And she and Giuliani did a lot of bipartisan bills or bipartisan policies together in New York City. And after 9/11 happened, there was just a lot of collaboration. So anyway, those were the two leaders. Hillary was at Trump status today. She had somewhere between 60 to 70%. And what ended up happening in 2008 was they had a big Democratic field, and it was just assumed Hillary's going to be the nominee. But what we'll do, what the DNC always does, and really it's a smart thing to do, is once you get closer to November, December, the year before the election, you bring it down to two people. Because when it's two people, you can have a proper primary and the best person will win. So they had their debates, and Obama, who was not in the top 5 initially, and he slowly crawled his way up to 3rd behind John Edwards and Hillary. After the debates, Obama started climbing to where he overtook Hillary and was number 1 in the polls. And so the DNC basically they said it's going to be Obama versus Hillary, and they forced everybody else to drop out.
So they burnied him. They burnied her.
So the rest is history. It was super close. It was almost 50-50 throughout the entire caucuses, the what do you call it? The primaries, almost 50-50. And Obama went into the convention not as a nominee because he didn't reach the number of delegates. And so he ended up after the convention, because he had more than Hillary, they said, this is the best best guy. 2012, do you remember who was leading in the polls? There were two people who were leading in the polls August 2011 on the Republican side to go up against Obama.
I know McCain was one of them.
No.
No.
McCain did not run in 2011. McCain was the nominee in 2008.
Oh my gosh, I'm horrible at this.
Hasn't Bernie run like every year since?
So McCain, Giuliani. Well, here's the other.
I do not remember Giuliani running.
Giuliani ended up not being. Giuliani was the leader in 2008. He ended up not winning. McCain won the nomination.
I do not remember him running. That's crazy.
I do remember him running. Yeah.
I don't. I really don't.
McCain ended up getting the nomination in 2011. The leader, it was two people, Rick Santorum and
I remember
Herman Cain. Those were the two leaders.
Oh my God.
2011.
Herman
Cain and Rick Santorum.
That's before I got involved in politics then, because I don't remember either one of them.
Well, neither of them ended up winning the nomination because
obviously,
won the nomination. In 2016,
Mittens, yeah.
So 2016, the DNC did not do a proper job because instead of throwing a big field out and trying to pick somebody to go up against Hillary, they only threw out two candidates. It was Bernie Sanders, who's a Democratic socialist, self-proclaimed, and the governor of Maryland. He was my governor at the time, Martin O'Malley. Those were the only two people who they threw out. So there wasn't a proper election done for hey, who's the best candidate to go up against Hillary?
Right.
And so anyway, she ended up winning that. But on the Republican side, again, August 2015, do you guys remember who was leading in the polls?
I know it was not Trump, I believe.
Trump wasn't even in the top 5.
Yeah.
No.
If I remember correctly, it was Jeb Bush, right?
Yeah.
Jeb Bush was number 1.
Jeb?
Jeb was number 1 because his last name was Bush and he was a very good governor of Florida. So Bush was number 1, and to round out the top 5, it was, in no particular order, it was Ben Carson, Marco Rubio.
Who I would have voted for. No.
Marco Rubio.
Not Marco.
Ted Cruz.
Maybe.
And John Kasich. Those were the top 5 ahead of Trump.
Right.
Before the first debate.
I would have gone Ben Carson if Trump hadn't entered.
2020, the polls. Before, same thing, in August 2019, who was winning in the DNC? It was not Joe Biden.
No.
It was actually a toss-up. You had Elizabeth Warren winning in some polls. You had this.
Joe never even made the top 5. They forced him in.
They forced him in there. And they knew that he would do really well with African Americans, and that's why they.
Why? Because they like his hairy legs.
That's why they ended up colluding. And so the point that I'm making here is I've gone back through history, I've looked at the data, and the people who are winning before the first debate are never the people who end up getting the nomination.
Interesting.
Never. It's never happened because 2016 we don't count that DNC. They didn't do a proper caucus with Hillary Clinton.
So what you're saying is we have a chance to have Vivek.
Well, what I'm saying, there's a chance that it's not going to be Trump. And the way that it happens is what happened in 2008. You let this big field duke it out, and by the end of November, going into Thanksgiving, the RNC makes the decision and says, if we throw all 10 of you guys out there, or by that point it's going to come down to 6 people. If we throw all 6 of you out there, what's going to happen is Trump's base is 40%. He's going to get 40% no matter what. The whole shooting Fifth Avenue, whatever. Yes. He's going to get the 40%. So that means there's only 60% of the pie left. And if 5 of you are out there, you're going to split that 60%. You're going to end up getting 12% each. And nobody's going to come close to beating Trump's 40%. So what needs to happen is what the Democrats did with Joe Biden in 2020. You tell your candidates, hey, Biden is beating all you guys right now. He has the best chance with African Americans. He has the best chance of winning South Carolina and all these upcoming states. So Pete Buttigieg, you take a step back, and Biden will make you his transportation secretary when he wins. Amy Klobuchar, you take a step back, and Biden will reward you when he wins. Kamala Harris, you step back, Biden will reward you. All these, literally everyone dropped out the same week. The same week, all the candidates dropped out except for Bernie Sanders. And the moment it was Bernie versus Biden, Biden creamed him. But Bernie didn't win a single state after that because it became socialism versus moderate Democrat. That's what it became, and most people are going to vote moderate Democrat. So in this case, the key is the RNC, and this is where Vivek has an uphill battle, because Vivek is not a part of the RNC. He is not a part of the GOP establishment. He is a 37-year-old.
Part of the reason I like him.
Yes. And so what's going to have to happen is, and this is what my prediction has been all along, Vivek is going to run a fantastic campaign, which he has been doing. It's going to be unlike other candidates who don't know how to run a campaign. He knows how to run a proper campaign because he's managed people before. He's run, and I know people I've gone to some pretty good schools. I know some really smart people, really successful people, and Vivek fits the personality of a handful of people who I know. These are people who win at everything. They succeed at life, from middle school, foreign languages, to Wall Street, making hundreds of millions of dollars. I know people with that type of personality.
Right. I see that in him. But here's my question. How does Vivek win over the diehard Trumpist?
He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to because
expand.
Because I am a data-driven individual. The New York Times did a piece last week about Trump's base. Trump's base in the Republican Party is 37%. If we were to give him a little bit of leeway and say, okay, there was a margin of error of 2-3%, right? His base is 40%. You throw in another 5% of people who are going to say, you know what, I'll give him another chance. That leaves 55% of the pie still open. And the key, like I mentioned, is the other candidates, which they will do. They have to accept the fact that they're not going to win. Right now, they don't accept it because they all think they have a chance if they're that candidate to go up against Trump. DeSantis thinks if he's head-to-head versus Trump, he will win. Tim Scott thinks if he's head-to-head versus Trump, he will win. Nikki Haley, everyone thinks if I'm head-to-head. And so this is where the debate, it's a good thing Trump is not showing up to the debate, because these debates are to determine who gets the right to go up against Trump. And what's happening with Vivek, the debate hasn't even happened. No one's heard of him. No one had heard of him 6 months ago. People in my community have not heard of him. They still have not heard of him. I would say a majority, 60 to 70% of voting age people still have not only have they not heard of him.
That scares me.
If they have heard of him, they have no idea what his policies are, what he stands for, what his background is.
That terrifies me that these people are voting.
Terrify me. That's a good thing. Because the fact that Vivek is now number 2, he's not number 3 anymore. He's number 2.
Yeah, he surpassed.
In a poll that just came out.
Yep.
Surpassed DeSantis. And my prediction all along was Vivek would be in the top 3 before the first debate, after the first debate, because that's prime time. That's free airtime. He's going to jump DeSantis, and he's going to run away with that field nomination for the right to go up against Trump starting in November, December.
And do you think that if there were debates between him and Trump that he would be, say what you will about Trump, but he's funny as hell, and he's really good at insults. Vivek is a little bit more serious and pragmatic. Will he be able to step up to the circus that is Trump? Will he be able to hold his own?
Of course he will. Because one thing about Vivek, again, I know people with this personality, they come in very prepared. Vivek, when he says, "Oh, I'm not a politician, I don't play snakes and ladders," he absolutely does. He absolutely,
Okay.
he's pushing all the right buttons. I'm not on here to come here and say, "Oh, Vivek's going to beat Trump." I'm not. What I am saying is that he is being severely underestimated by the media and by the Republican Party and by his opponents, just like Trump was being in 2016 and 2015. Yes. The same thing is happening to Vivek. And the metrics that matter, the amount of spend has been close to zero. He's getting free airtime. He's getting inbound marketing.
And Trump did the same thing as well.
Trump did the same thing in 2015. And so Vivek goes up against Trump. That is a chance for the nation, not just Republicans, but Democrats also, who are so tired of this administration or who were forced to vote for Biden in 2020 because they just hated Trump so much.
Doesn't that make you sad that they were forced to vote for somebody they don't like?
Well, that's what happened in 2020. That's
I
exactly what happened.
I would rather vote for somebody that I want. Okay, so saying that, let's say that we aren't able to get Vivek to be the nominee.
He's going to be the VP.
And that's my next question.
He's going to be so.
Does that 100% guarantee him to be the president? And what an amazing VP will he be? And is Trump smart enough to recognize that?
Yes. I've been following Vivek very closely ever since I read Woke Inc. 2 years ago. And by the way, when we talk about China, most of this is laid out in his book, Woke Inc. That was the point of the book. He calls it
sponsored,
Woke
but we take him in a heartbeat. Woke Inc. Yes.
Woke, yeah. He says Woke Inc. because it has the corporate bend to it of how wokeness is actually a creation of large corporations like the NBA, like Disney, the two examples that I gave. And their relations to BlackRock, another large corporation, or State Street and their relations to China, the Chinese Communist Party. So Vivek, he would be an excellent VP, and I think he will be. Here's why. About a year ago, Vivek went from saying that he didn't know Donald Trump, he had never met him, to today, he says Donald Trump is a friend and that he's met him several times and they talk frequently.
Vivek has done everything 100% right as far as not dissing his opponents and not saying anything negative, which, I mean, even DeSantis
That's
can't
very
say
rare
that.
these days.
Yeah, very rare. DeSantis went hard against Trump. It's like, not your best look, dude. Even if Trump says something against you, if you don't diss him, he'll come around.
Well, part of the reason why DeSantis did so well before he threw his hat in is because he never dissed Trump when he ran for re-election. But going back to Vivek, the reason why I say that Vivek went from a year ago having never met Trump to all of a sudden he's talking to him frequently, he's a good friend. To me, it's clear that there is some sort of an arrangement between the two. It has nothing to do with dissing anybody.
And do you think that Vivek is ready, willing, and able to take that step back and be the VP with the understanding that he's 100% going to be the president after those years?
Whether he's president or not, if somebody asks you to become the vice president of the United States at the age of 39, you absolutely take it. You absolutely take it. He's saying publicly right now, which he's saying, again, he plays snakes and ladders too. He's saying right now, oh, I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to go back into the private sector.
Well, no, when you run to win. You run to win.
Yeah.
You I get
run
that.
to win. But again, he will only take it. Trump is in this situation today because he did not drain the swamp. He failed at draining the swamp.
I agree.
And he never explained how he was going to drain the swamp when he was running. It just became a slogan that he never followed up on.
Right. And he didn't.
What
and that's why where he is today, yes.
What Vivek is doing is that he's actually coming out Ross Perot style. If you remember Ross Perot in the 90s, Ross Perot,
I was still a kid, but yeah, I do remember him.
the way he would
If I was old enough to vote, I would have voted for him.
he would come out with videos of chalkboard or a marker board, dry erase board,
Yep.
and he would write stuff and say, this is what I believe, this is how I'm going to accomplish it, and show you on the board and walk voters through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like he was teaching you how he was going to, it was like, wow, this guy is pretty good. And he screwed up a lot of elections because he's the only third party candidate to consistently get double digit votes.
Right, right.
Vivek is doing the same stuff. I haven't seen a candidate do this since Ross Perot in the 90s, where he's coming out with boards and he's saying, this is how I'm going to abolish the Federal Reserve. This is how I'm going to abolish the FBI. This is how I'm going to restructure the FDA and the CDC and the IRS. Mm-hmm. And he's showing the actual plan of how he's going to drain the swamp. And he includes references to the U.S. Constitution and previous Supreme Court cases that say, hey, you can do this as the head of the executive branch. You can gut the executive branch. This is not...
So how do we help him? How do we find these, and how do we spread this, and how do we help him? Because, like I said, I would crawl through broken glass to vote for this guy. I want him to be the nominee. I know he's not going to be for obvious reasons. Thing is, if he's the VP, he is guaranteed to be the nominee after that. So how do we get him?
Well,
how do we spread this?
I think he will be the VP pick for Trump because he's the only person who knows how to drain the swamp. He's going to do very well in the polls. He's going to beat the field during the debates, and he's going to come out as number 2. So it's like, okay, well, who's the best person after me? Vivek Ramaswamy. Oh, and he also, yes, it matters. He happens to be a person of color. Again, he's way overqualified. He just happens.
I don't give a crap about any of that. But how do we get this out
this
there?
This becomes an obvious choice for Trump. And like I said, I've been following him. There's definitely a deal between the two. That's just based on what he used to say and what he's saying now about Trump and their personal relationship. So I think there's something between the two. And if Trump says, look, you're going to be my VP, because let's face it, most VPs don't do anything. If Trump says,
VP does,
you're going to be,
all she does is embarrass us.
You're going to be my VP, and this is the project I'm giving you as vice president. It's to drain the swamp, just like the platform that he's running on. Then Vivek will be the most effective vice president in U.S. history. And yes, he will be a shoo-in to be the Republican nominee in
your lips to God's ears. Okay, so how do we get these two in power? What can we do?
Yeah, well, I'm talking about Vivek here. So it's pretty simple. First off, you go out and vote during the primary. So you say, oh, I'd love to vote for Vivek. You can vote for him.
I will.
The second thing is, if you're not, because Vivek, you brought up Trump's base. Let's say his base is 45%. 40% of Vivek's donors, he has nearly 80,000 donors. 40%, so more than 30,000 of those donors are people who have donated to the Republican Party for the first time in their lives. So these are people who are lifelong Democrats, people who donated to Democrats, who are independent, who have no party affiliation.
Right. That's me. I have no party affiliation.
So if you have no party affiliation, what you need to do is switch. You can do it online. You switch your party affiliation to Republican. I just did that. I literally just did that. I did that 2 weeks ago, only because I'm going out to vote for Vivek.
Okay.
I've never voted in a primary in my life.
Yeah, me either.
I'm going to go out and vote for Vivek.
Okay.
And the only way you can do that is if you change your party affiliation.
You have to. All right.
I'll do it this time.
If you're no party affiliation, if you're independent,
we don't get a vote. We don't get a vote.
Then you don't get to vote.
Yeah.
So the first step is you change your party affiliation to Republican so that you can go out and vote for Vivek.
All right. So how do you do that for those who are not aware how you can change your party affiliation so you can vote in the primaries?
Easy. Type in your county. So whatever county you live in, Google that county and also add in change party affiliation vote.
That's it.
Change party affiliation vote.
All right. So
I live in
that you
Hillsborough
live in.
County.
Mm-hmm.
I typed in Hillsborough County change party affiliation vote.
Mm-hmm.
First site that came up, I clicked it. It asks you type in your address, your date of birth, your name, type it in, it finds you, you click it, and then you can change your party affiliation. And then a week later, I got something in the mail saying, hey, you're now a Republican, registered Republican, so you can vote in the primaries.
All right, so let's all pretend we're Republicans, even if we're not, so that we can vote in the primaries, get Vivek in there. And then the other thing we need to do is do everything that they did in the last election. Let's get people involved. Let's harvest ballots. Let's do whatever we can that's legal to get those votes in.
I'll tell you this. And this goes back to what I said about the Civil War. And if Trump runs, is he going to win? I say there's a 50-50 chance that he'll win. Let's say he does win.
If
he's
votes
only
counts, he'll win.
He's only going to get 280 to 290 electoral. Basically, it's going to be a split election. It's not going to be a 1980, 1984 Ronald Reagan landslide where somebody is getting more than 400 electoral votes and more than 60% of the popular.
It's going to be a fight. It's
going to be such a split to where, again, Civil War, national divorce. I think there are a few candidates on the Republican side. I think there are many candidates who can win. I think there are only one or two candidates who can actually win a landslide election. And when I say landslide, I mean 400 plus electoral votes, 60% of the popular vote.
If they get the chance.
Vivek is one of those guys.
I agree.
In fact, he might be the only one because Vivek, like I said, is getting Democrats to join his base.
Right.
He's getting young people who have never voted in their lives to join his base. Right. He is creating a new base, whereas like you were thinking in those terms of how is he going to steal Trump's base to his base? And I said he doesn't have to do that because what he's doing is stealing people who have never voted in their lives, people who have voted independent. And here's the other thing that is really important. And I'm about to send something off to the Libertarian Party. If Vivek is the nominee, the Libertarian Party should cease putting someone up there. They should cease and desist from.
Do they even have a candidate?
Well, they always do.
The Libertarian Party now is consistently a top 4 in the third party.
Yeah, but.
So in 2012.
Do they have a candidate? You said they do?
They always do. I don't know about now. I don't know about right now, but it's kind of early.
People don't even know their name. Outside of Perot, I can't name a single Libertarian Party candidate.
Well, Perot was not a Libertarian.
I thought he was.
No.
No, see, that's how bad they are. They're bad at PR.
So I mean, there's a third party. If you're a third party, you're not going to get any love whatsoever. But here's why it's important, because Vivek is running on a libertarian platform. Almost everything that he's saying is very, very libertarian.
Yes.
And if the Libertarian Party puts up their own candidate on the ballot, they're going to take away an additional about 2% from Vivek, or let's just say 1 to 1.5% from Vivek.
And that can make all the difference.
It can absolutely make all the difference. So it's kind of like if Ron Paul, the Libertarian Party said multiple times, if Ron Paul or Rand Paul become the nominee, we're not going to put a candidate up there because that's our candidate.
Right, exactly.
So the same thing should be said about Vivek. That's very, very important for him winning in a landslide. Okay. The reason why a landslide is this goes back to the national divorce. A landslide is so important because it's the only way, it's the last ditch attempt to unify the country. Because if Vivek gets over 400 electoral votes and a 60% popular vote, that is such a large margin of victory that the nation would then feel like, hey, we have a guy who I kind of like. I may not have voted for him. I may not agree with all his policies, but I'm willing to give him a chance. It's not a situation where you get Trump in, and like I said, you're going to see riots. People's heads are going to explode.
Right. Well, I mean, Vivek himself has said that Trump makes people insane. It's not anything against him personally. It's just for some reason that name, who he is, it causes an insanity.
It actually just set off the crazy in America. It absolutely did.
I do think that Trump is the best candidate. I do think he will be a fantastic president. He was. He didn't drain the swamp. He didn't do a lot of the things, but he was really hamstringed. At the same time, I don't think he's the best candidate now.
I don't think he was now.
I don't think he's the best candidate now. And I'm looking at what we have, and I'm looking at what he didn't accomplish and what he didn't do and who he hired and who he didn't fire. And I'm like, no. I would love for somebody to come in. Okay, so here's my question. Do you think Vivek will come in and just fire the living crap out of everybody? Because that's what I want.
So that's part of his platform. His platform is, once again, to drain the swamp. Trump did not do that.
No.
Ronald Reagan actually did this when he came in 1981. Ronald Reagan came in and fired a lot of people. He didn't do it to an extent that Vivek is looking to actually abolish these ABC three-letter acronym agencies.
I want all interns. I want all low levels. I want everybody all the way down to the $15 an hour, slave wagers. I want them all gone. I want them all gone. I want a complete sweep, because these people, so many of them, we don't know their names. We don't know where they came from. We don't know who they are, but they have been there for administration after administration after administration, and they're the ones who have the voice. No, I want them gone. I want them gone. I don't care who you are. I don't care what party you are. If you have been there for more than a year, gone. Bye. Bye-bye.
This is not about political party.
Exactly.
He is looking to approximately 80 to 85% of the workforce is going to be laid off, and he is allowed to do that so there's civil service protection. There's something called civil service protection that keeps workers from, it's basically this union that keeps government workers from being laid off.
I will step in for just a moment. In full disclosure, you probably didn't know this. I was with the Social Security Administration for 4 years. I vouch for everything you say. We did. We were considered essential. Mm-hmm. And there was no way. I mean, unless we really bungled up, there was no way we're going to lose our job.
Well, essential meaning there are some administrations that need to be around. I mean, Social Security, he's not talking about gutting Social Security. No, it's going to be around.
No, of course not.
No, that's
look,
different.
Only somebody with who like has run it. And look, I run 2 very small businesses that are nowhere near the size of Trump organizations or Vivek's organizations. But when you run a small business and you're hiring people, you fully understand that you need to get productivity from every single hire that you make.
Right.
Because when you're spending that money, that's valuable money that you are spending. You cannot.
There's no buffer like there is with a larger company.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to, well, even at a larger company, when things go bad, like right now, you have ultra high interest rates, the borrowing costs are much higher. And so these companies are laying off people left and right.
Right. And the government never does. The government never does.
They're laying off people who are working 1 hour a day, whose jobs can be replaced by technology and artificial intelligence. What Vivek is saying is there are some entities that should have never been created to begin with, which, again, going back to the whole libertarian discussion, 100% true. You don't need a Department of Education.
Nope.
And it's your property tax that's paying for the local public school.
Yep.
And
And it's so garbage.
And
Yeah.
what is the Department of Education doing? They're spending money on failing schools.
Right.
The schools that are getting the most money are not the best schools. They're the worst schools. The worst schools are getting the most amount of money.
And
right?
you don't have a choice because they're fighting that too.
And well, the other thing is, the government tells them, we'll give you this money, but in return, you have to do X, Y, Z. And X, Y, Z includes teaching kindergartners about transgenderism, critical race theory, right? You have to do X, Y, Z. And these bureaucrats, many of them, are owned by who? They are somehow loosely owned by big pharma. They're donors. They're donors.
Yeah.
A lot of
Going
these
back to the first
All
hour of our
goes back to
conversation,
China.
yeah.
And it goes back to China. Exactly.
Yeah.
So his whole idea is, look, I'm going to gut the Department of Energy, the Department of Education, the FBI. So well, I've actually talked to ex-FBI agents about this, and they say, we do so much at the FBI. And I said, look, me, Vivek, all these people, we're not saying you don't do anything. In fact, you're going to keep your job. The issue is that what the FBI does is very similar to what the U.S. Marshals do and what the DEA does and what the investigative unit of the Department of Treasury does. So what's going to happen is FBI gets shut down and the good people, like the agents, are just reassigned. And the bad agents are the ones who get fired or laid off. So the people who are losing their jobs, it sounds bad, but again, if you work in any corporate environment, you know that layoffs are a part of business. It's part of the business cycle. And the people who are let go,
the people who are let go, the people who are let go are the ones that the people like us have to make up for.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
So the people who are let go, generally, they may not be the greatest at their jobs. They may not be displaying much productivity. Maybe they have bad reviews, whatever it might be. Okay. So the idea here is to lay off or abolish. And the people who do get to keep their jobs are the A-team superstars. Mm-hmm. They get to stay. They should be able to learn how to use technology, because his whole thing is also implementing technology to streamline the process in the government. So they should be able, he's basically going to give them a test at whim that you can't study for. And it's, can you use technology? And do you love this country? Your political party doesn't matter. And there are tests that you can create. A simple citizenship test is enough to determine whether someone...
People who become citizens of the U.S. have to pass a test that's more rigorous than people who are born here.
Yeah.
And it amazes me because I have kids from Somalia and South Africa and you know...
They know more about the U.S. Constitution.
They know more about the U.S. Constitution than people who are born here, and that's disgusting. That's disgusting. Why? Why do they know that? Because they love their country, and our country is their country. And, you know, if you're born here, you're kind of spoiled. You really are. Mm-hmm. You should be taught from birth why you are lucky to live here. Why, yes, it is a privilege. It is. And that's okay as long as you uphold that, as long as you celebrate that, as long as you are part of that. And they should be taught that from birth. Literally. Nobody is. And
well, that's why
all my immigrant kids are. All my immigrant kids are. My black, my Asian, my you know, Indian, Hispanic, doesn't matter. All of my kids that are first and second generation are aware of that. And they appreciate
again,
that.
That's why if you're going to work for the government, you should at least have knowledge about how the government works.
That also includes the military, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're sworn to defend the Constitution. We need to know what we're defending.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I don't think you need to necessarily know it before you get in, but it needs to be part of your training as a soldier to do that.
Absolutely.
I have this crazy idea that in order to vote, and this transcends race, so, I don't want people to say, oh, race is blah, blah. No, in order to vote, you don't have to own land and yada, yada. In order to vote, you have to sign up to either serve in the military or serve in the government. And I don't care if it's school board. I don't care if it's, church board. I don't care if it's, senator, whatever.
Well, he has.
At some point. Yeah, no, and I agree. And that's the thing.
Well, the reason why I didn't bring that up is because it's never going to pass. That would require a constitutional amendment. It's never going to pass.
And people keep asking, why, you've never served, blah, blah. No, he has. It's just, you're not paying attention to that.
But his proposal is that if you're under the age of 25, so if you're 25 and up, you can vote. You could be a complete bum. You still have the right to vote.
I disagree with that.
Oh, so I do too. I do too. But his whole thing is if you're under the age of 25, the only way you can vote, and these are not difficult. We're not talking about getting a PhD over here.
Exactly.
Right.
He says you serve the government in whether it's military or you work the government. Now, he wants to make it mandatory that to get a government job, you have to pass this exam.
And you should, yes.
Right? So it's
you shouldn't work for an entity you know nothing about. I mean, even
exactly.
Every interview I've ever had, the first thing they ask me is, what do you know about this company?
Exactly.
So you shouldn't be able to work for the government if you don't know what the heck it's,
So that's one. Number two is a service-based field. So if you're like a medic or an EMT or a firefighter, a police officer,
I'll
nurse or whatever, then you can be under the age of 25. You're allowed to vote. The third thing, so I'm not any of these. Before I turned 25, I wasn't any of these. But he says if you're not any of these, you can still vote if you pass the same citizenship test that immigrants have to take, that they have to pass to get their citizenship. You pass that. You take it when every high school, it's mandatory that they give it out multiple days a year. You can take it, you pass it, boom, you get your right to vote.
Yes.
To me, so this requires a constitutional amendment, which requires a supermajority, and it's just not going to happen anytime soon.
We're trying to change that too.
But the important thing is his implementation of the idea of this test, for example, for government workers is so important, because the people who fail the exam, if it's like a pop quiz, which really it should be a pop quiz.
Yes, absolutely.
You shouldn't even be allowed to study for it, because if you work for the government and you have to study for a test, I mean, I took like 4 different versions of this exam for fun with my wife, and I got one question wrong out of like 200. There were 200 questions. Right. I got one wrong.
These are, if you grew up in America, you should just know these. This should be
Exactly. These
are. We used to be taught this stuff.
It's what's the capital of this state? How many branches of government are there? How many Supreme Court justices are there? What year was the country founded? What year did women get their right to vote? It's basic stuff.
Basic civics and history.
Basic
right.
civics.
And
you don't even need a 99. You don't even need a 90%. You just need.
And even people like me who aren't good with the numbers, if you were to say what year did something happen, but if you were to say what is suffrage, there are people. I'd say a good 50% of our population couldn't even answer that question.
They'll think it's suffering and not suffrage.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these videos, and I know they cherry pick, but you look at these videos, and I bet I could go out here, even in Texas, I bet you I could go out there with a hidden camera and say, okay, we need to outlaw suffrage, and they'd be like, yeah, let's do that. I bet you most people don't even know what it means.
They don't.
And they shouldn't vote. They shouldn't vote. They shouldn't vote.
Well, to me.
Wait, that's kind of ironic, isn't it?
We'll get to the voting stuff eventually, but to me right now, it's about draining the swamp, because that is an easier thing to do.
And that's the thing that upset me the most. Why didn't Trump drain the swamp?
Because he didn't know. That's the thing. A lot of these people, they don't No, Trump never came out with a plan, and he said, "I'm going to put in people who." He didn't. He picked picked a vice president who was a part of the GOP swamp. He did pick a Secretary of State who is kind of part of the swamp, because even though he's not a politician, Rex Tillerson, he is part of the corporatocracy that runs government. ExxonMobil, he was the CEO. So he picked the wrong people, and that's on him. Sorry, that's on him, and he's in this situation today because he put himself in this situation. But this is why, if you study it, if you come out with a plan like Vivek has, and you show it on a board, and you say, this is how I'm going to gut the FBI, and this is how he has an activist investor background. He was an M&A investment banker, worked at a hedge fund, started his own company. He understands activist investing. He understands how BlackRock and how China, the biggest activist investors in the world, from communist China, can make decisions on behalf of other democracies. He understands that. And so, he knows how to jump in, how to merge divisions, how to cut costs, how to trim fat, how to hire, how to fire. He's the only candidate who I've seen in my lifetime who has that activist investing background.
Right. Let's go a little bit deeper, though, because there are people who are out there who say, oh, he was backed by the WEF.
WEF, yep. Which is false.
I probably know a little bit more about that than
that
most,
sounded like baloney to me from moment one.
Let's talk about that a little bit. There are also other naysayers, before you go too much. There are also other naysayers who say that he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, that he doesn't understand, yada, yada. I want to investigate that a little bit further, because I know that's not true, but a lot of people don't.
Okay, so first off, if he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, so was George Bush.
So was Trump.
So was Trump. No, Trump was.
Biden,
Trump was born with a gold spoon, not even a silver spoon.
All of them, yeah.
There are many people. RFK Jr. was born with a silver spoon. I mean, yeah, his dad did die when he was extremely young, but that's not a reason to disqualify a candidate, because the same reason that you shouldn't disqualify a candidate because of the color of their skin.
Right.
I mean, he was born with a silver spoon. Why is that a disqualification from being president of the United States? So talking about some of these issues, we bring up the WEF.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off,
that's the big one. That's the one people bring up.
No, that's not I think the bigger ones have to do with a few other things. But first off,
we'll bring them all up. Let's air all the laundry.
Nobody knew anything about him until recently, and only now things are coming out. And I've read some of the things that are against him. These things are so small. They're going back and looking at every single thing that he said on his Twitter and what he said in an interview. Some of these things are so small, okay? I'll give you an example. He said he went on the Breakfast Club, African-American show, and he told a woman who was grilling him, he said that he voted for the first time in 2020. So he basically never voted in adulthood. And so she went after it. How could you be running for president? You've only voted once. And then it was determined, after looking into his voting record, that he voted in 2004 for the Libertarian candidate. And so a right-wing paper went after him, saying he's a liar. He said he voted in 2020 only, but he actually voted in 2004. And so
we can't win.
My comeback to that is, you're going to disqualify a person? Like, that is, for him to lie about that, I think he probably forgot that he voted for a Libertarian.
Right. Yeah.
That was 20 plus years ago.
So it turns out, when they asked him about it, he said he had just turned 18, or like it was the first time he could vote, and he just went to his college campus and like voted for Libertarian because he thought it was cool, and he just forgot about it because it was a throwaway vote. And he knew that his
everybody does. That's what I did when I turned 18. Lenora Fulani, I can still remember her name.
Ed Clark.
So again, some of the attacks on him are so dumb. Another attack that I saw is his company, Roivant Pharmaceuticals. They just entered into a huge partnership with Pfizer like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
that is a bad look.
Well, that sounds like a bad look, but Vivek has nothing to do with the company anymore. He stepped down from the board of directors. He sold his entire stake in the company. He's not CEO, obviously. So he actually has absolutely nothing to do with the company. So if the company wants to go to the CCP and say, hey, let's do a big partnership, they can absolutely do that because he has zero. This is not like Trump organization, doing a deal with Pfizer or the CCP or something like that, where Trump still had a stake even while he was president. He divested to his children. Vivek has nothing to do with the company. He moved on to his next company, which is a hedge fund. So again, that's just irresponsible reporting for people to say, oh, this company that you founded 7 years ago just entered into this huge deal with this, $8-9 billion deal with Pfizer. You're a bad person for being in bed with Big Pharma. And his response was simply, I didn't do the deal. I have nothing to do with the company. I sold my stake 2 years ago.
Okay.
I moved on. That's another example.
Interesting. Okay.
Of how they're
Because
going.
I literally have never heard that. I've only heard the bad side. Okay.
The other reason they're going after him, and again, they really have nothing on him. They're trying to find anything and everything. And what they're trying to do is pit him against Trump now because he's rising in the polls. So they found a passage that's going around social media from one of his books. And the passage, I'm going to summarize it. I'm not going to quote it, but I'm going to summarize it. It talks about the dark day. The election was stolen. There was ballot fraud, blah, blah, blah. And the candidate who lost should have, conceded, and it's abhorrent that they still will not concede the election. Okay. So this passage is being passed around.
This sounds like Stacey Abrams.
There you go. So the dishonest media went after him saying, how are you writing this in your book about Trump, and now you're supporting him and saying that you're taking America first to the next level and Trump is your good friend when you said this about Trump? And his response was, did you actually read the book? And they said, no, but I found it on Twitter. I found the passage on Twitter. Well, did you read the book? No, I didn't read the book. Well, that's dishonest. It says that's dishonest because if you read the book, you'll see that I'm talking about Stacey Abrams.
Oh my God, and I just got that from what you said. I haven't even read the book. She still hasn't conceded. That's hilarious.
I'm getting me a copy of that book this week.
Me too. We're literally going to buy that book.
Yes, 3 of them now. And so this is what I'm saying, where his camp believes that these attacks are you can probably take a wild guess who is leaking these attacks.
Does it rhyme with PPP?
No. It's competitors. It's opponents.
Right.
Okay,
so,
but Trump has actually come out and said he likes the guy.
No, not Trump. Trump is not leaking. DeSantis. Yeah. The DeSantis camp
DeSantis, I don't know what happened to him. He must have hired the wrong guy. But he was doing everything right, and then all of a sudden, he just looks like a jerk. And it's like, okay, when you fired the wrong guy, because you were doing everything right. You came out smelling like a rose, and now
he hired the wrong person. He just shouldn't have run. He shouldn't have run. I don't want to take away from DeSantis. Have been an amazing governor.
No, I like DeSantis.
He's a good leader. He's a worker.
I would have
He's
voted
smart.
for him in 4 years, but now was the wrong time for him to enter. And whoever took over his campaign.
Well, it was the GOP.
Wrong choice.
The GOP took over his campaign.
Okay, well, the GOP sucks donkey water, and that's why I'm not a Republican, because they suck.
Yeah.
And
I'm not either, but I just changed. Like I said, you should too. You should change
just enough to vote.
No,
just enough to
I'll
vote.
hold my nose and do it.
I'll hold my nose and do it, but I am not a Republican.
Yeah. Same here.
I never have been, ever.
It's literally the only reason why I changed it, and there are tens of thousands of people around the country who are doing the same thing, only to vote for Vivek.
Okay, so we've been talking for over 2.5 hours.
Let me tell you about the World Economic Forum.
All right.
So
Yeah,
that
do
was complete BS.
because people bring that up.
Complete BS because they named him. They come out with a list, the top 40 under 40, whatever BS list that they come out with. He was named.
WEF, yes.
He was named to it because he is a very talented, accomplished young man. So they named him to the list, and he did not go to their conference. He didn't do anything with them. In fact, he told them, because he knew politically he wanted to have a political career, he said, please keep me off your list. They never kept him off the list. They never removed him from the website. And so finally, he sued them. And after he sued them, he actually got financial compensation.
Really?
And now he's off. Yeah, he's off, and that's been clarified.
So he won that lawsuit, saying I don't want
They
any
win the
part of
lawsuit.
that.
They settled. They
Okay.
apologized. They took all his stuff down.
Okay.
They wrote him a
That's
letter,
good enough.
They sent him a check.
Which to me is a win. But okay, so his only relationship to the WEF is that they named him on a list that he didn't want to be part of, and people are still trying to condemn him for that.
And by the way, being named to this list is like a career milestone.
Yeah.
Like any parent would be ecstatic for their child to be named to this 40 under 40 list.
Right.
But his ambitions went beyond some lists because he knew this would hurt him politically. So he said, hey, don't include me. There's another connection between him and Soros. He won
that's the other one, Soros.
He won a Soros.
Yeah.
He won a Soros scholarship when he was like 24 years old to go to law school or for his law school to be paid. It was a $100,000 grant that would be applied towards his Yale Law School tuition. And back then, Yale Law School was about $100,000 for 3 years. So his law school tuition was paid for by this Soros Foundation scholarship that he got. To go after a 24-year-old who, again, most 24-year-olds under his plan wouldn't even be allowed to vote. To go after him for taking money that he won for being an ultra-talented student it's just completely out of bounds because, A, you need money to go. Colleges are expensive. Yale Law School is expensive. B,
and how close was Soros to the fund?
well,
Because
again, that's what I'm getting to with B. Soros is not George Soros.
Right.
The Soros Fund was actually George Soros's brother and that brother's wife who created this scholarship, who have nothing to do with left-wing politics. He was just, the last name is Soros. So this idea, I've gotten scholarships in my life, and to be honest, I don't even remember the names of the people. The people, they put their names attached to these scholarships, the so-and-so, Martin J. Whitman scholar, like, I honestly don't even remember the names of people. All I cared about when I was 17 years old, 16 years old, getting these scholarships was, hey, send me that check so I can make a payment.
Yeah, seriously, when I was 16, 17, 18, even 25, if I had gotten a scholarship from Adolf H. that would have paid for my books, I'd have been like, cool. Seriously, I don't know who the dude is. I don't know what his involvement is, but he's paying for my books. I'm in. And you don't get to meet these people. You don't get to talk to these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You never talk to them. They rarely have like a dinner. Sometimes there are these scholarship dinners and you go, you dress up, you get a trophy or whatever. And
if we're talking over several grand, yeah. But if you're talking $1,000
this was not one of those scholarships.
Yeah.
This was not one of those scholarships. So again, to go after a guy and say he can't be president because he got a scholarship from a man named Soros, who by the way is dead. He's long dead.
Unbelievable.
To me, these are attacks that are really funny.
They're
actually.
really reaching. They're really reaching. They
They're
really are.
really reaching, and it's hard. It's you go up against Trump, who had a 50-year business career and a bunch of lawsuits. Okay, you'll find stuff. You go up against DeSantis. You can look at his voting record. You could look at so much stuff that's public when he was governor and congressman.
You go against Biden, who's been dirty since the 1970s.
You can find something, right?
Yeah.
But with Vivek, like I mentioned, no one had heard of the guy until 6 months ago, and still still a good chunk of the population has never heard of. The first time they're ever going to see him or hear about him is on that debate stage next week.
Okay. All right, so let's get this guy in. We've been talking for a little over 2.5
I guess
hours.
counterculture-wise, for the first time, has an official endorsement for a candidate.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I would crawl through broken glass to vote for this guy.
I think he's great.
Candidate.
So yeah,
I don't
he's
think
got
that's going to
mine
happen.
too.
If he is the VP, I think that would only help Trump.
Picking Vivek as VP will get Trump over the hill. It will absolutely.
100%. I think they're going to assassinate Trump.
Well,
that's
going way off.
Okay, I'm going to go on record. One of two things is going to happen. Trump's going to die, or martial law and there's no vote at all. I'm going to go on record for that right now.
I think those are actually two really fair predictions. I think they're two very fair predictions, and my prediction back in March is that Vivek would make it to the top 2, and my prediction now that he is going to make it to the top 2 sooner than I originally anticipated. My prediction is he'll either win the nomination and become the next president, or he will be Trump's. Well, not necessarily, but he'll just be the VP.
I'm behind him 100%. I think he is an amazing candidate. I've been watching his career since I first learned of who he is. If he does make it, like I said, I would crawl over broken glass to vote for him to be president. If he's going to be VP, he will be president following that. And if he and or Trump make it to the next election, that would make America a better place to live in. Because right now, not so great. So, any last words before we wrap this puppy up?
I think we covered it all. I think both of these topics go hand in hand.
Yes.
They're both extremely important topics. I think the issue of the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP has done an amazing job of downplaying themselves globally, and we need to keep talking about it. And the next time we see one of our conservative or ultra-liberal friends who are down because of DEI or ESG or systemic racism or BLM, that's another 3-letter acronym.
True.
And we try to explain it to them and say, do not let the Chinese Communist Party get to your head.
Right.
This is exactly what they want. They want us to be fighting with each other. They want us to be tearing down buildings and breaking into government buildings and
judging each other by the color of their skin and being racially divided and all of that.
Racially divided and gender. They want gender to become a topic of educational discussion, a mainstream topic. They want us to be dumb. They want us to learn less. They want us to learn that 2 + 2 is 5. They want us not to learn how to code, not how to do artificial intelligence, computer science, math, science, history. They want to cancel history. They want to they just want to cancel reading. They want all that to happen in America, and it is happening. It is happening. Just look at the statistics of the percentage of high school students who are graduating without being able to read a kindergarten book.
Yes.
They're illiterate.
And I'm seeing this firsthand.
College graduates who don't have any skills whatsoever that they can bring to the workforce.
Right.
Look at the number of kids. So we talked about reading, writing, speaking. Extremely important when we talk about STEM.
Mm-hmm.
The number of kids who are taking out student loans not to go into a STEM field or something that requires reading, writing, speaking.
Mm-hmm.
That taking out those loans to go into something that will enslave them for the first 20 years out of college.
Or more. I mean,
that they could go on their entire life.
Yeah, you think about compound interest, which should be completely outlawed. I mean, you're enslaved for life.
And so this is a coordinated attack on the United States by the
Yes.
CCP.
Yes.
And there is only one candidate who will be able to stand up to the CCP, to Xi Jinping, and who will re-enter, who will keep America great, make America greater, unlock the potential of our economy through drilling, fracking, the energy industry. Still keep costs low by re-entering the Pacific Trade Partnership, TPP, replacing China with countries like India, Philippines,
We need
South
to
Korea,
decouple for sure.
Indonesia, Japan,
Yes.
etc., including other nations like that aren't in the Pacific, like Brazil. There's only one candidate, that's Vivek Ramaswamy, and I think if he is the nominee, he will win in a landslide election. He will unite the country. You're never going to unite 100%. You're never going to unite 90%.
It's
but
not
we are going to
realistic.
be. It's not. But you're going to be on a path towards unity, towards nationalism, towards this sense of I am proud to be American.
Mhm.
He is the guy who can do that, who will drain the swamp, who knows the Constitution, who will continue to read up on the Constitution, and who will prove every narrative that the CCP has spread to the left all around the world. This whole leftism thing isn't just in the United States. CCP has spread it to India,
Oh,
they spread
yeah.
it to England,
Europe
to France,
is a mess. Yeah.
to Germany, to lots of other nations.
Ireland, don't even get me started. Yeah.
So, highly recommend people watch the debates, learn up a little more about him, and to change their, if they are on board with his mission and his plans, change their political party to Republican so they can vote for him in the primaries. And if you just don't like Donald Trump, because there are tons of lifelong Republicans who hate Donald Trump,
Mm-hmm.
tons.
Yeah.
Tons of moderates who hate Donald Trump, tons of independents who hate Donald Trump. If you're one of those people, you're going to love Vivek. Change your political party back to Republican. This is a guy who you want to vote for.
All right.
All righty.
You
It's
are not
always
a
a
paid
pleasure.
endorser, but you did a damn good job.
It was, as
Okay.
always, it's a pleasure to have
Naresh,
you on the show.
where can people find you online?
NareshVissa.com. Go to Amazon, type in my name, Naresh Vissa. You can see all my books available there.
Okay. Multiple published author, guy who does his homework. Naresh, you've been an amazing guest. And you, me, and Vivek and Jimmy over there, let's get it done.
Let's get it done.
All right. You have an amazing evening.
Thank you, guys.
God bless.
All right.
Take
All the
care.
best.